Welcome to Budget Beauty, where I help you look flawless for less. Welcome back, and a very special welcome if you're new here. My name is Jen, and this is Budget Beauty. We do everything beauty on a budget, and that includes testing out new makeup releases. And today I am so incredibly excited for the newest release from one of my favorite indie brands, Blend Bunny Cosmetics. Blend Bunny has released the Forget Me Not collection. I guess it's considered a collection. There is the Forget Me Not palette and the brush set. I did pick up both and I am so incredibly excited. This is definitely a little bit different palette for Blend Bunny. This is more of an eye and face palette. I travel a lot, so it definitely intrigued me. It is a neutral palette that you can use on your entire face. So today we're going to use this to complete my look for the day. So if you're excited, give this video a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not. Turn your bell on because I upload lots and lots of new videos every single week. I will link the Forget Me Not collection down below for you with a discount. It is not my discount code. It's just the code that I use to save an extra 10%. I'm all about saving money on makeup. I will also link all of the other makeup that I'm wearing in today's video, my favorite beauty subscription boxes, and of course, come follow me on TikTok for a little bit more beauty on a budget. Let me go ahead and zoom you in and let's test out the Blend Bunny Forget Me Not. So this is the Forget Me Not palette. Like I said, this is a versatile eye and face palette. It opens more like a book than it does like an eyeshadow palette. And there is a mirror in the palette. I'm going to go ahead and insert an up close view of the palette as well as swatches. This palette was designed to be used all over the face and on the eyes. Definitely gives bridal vibes, would be great if you're a working makeup artist. But what I was excited about is this is a versatile palette that you can take with you for travel, or you can use it to complete an entire look. Everything from bronzer, even powders, blushes, highlighters, and then you can create a neutral leaning eye look with the palette as well. I have a lot of trips coming up here in the next month and the next few months, and I thought that this would come in really handy for those trips. So today we're actually going to complete my entire face with this palette. All I have on my face right now is foundation, concealer, and I set my face with some powder. So I'm going to use the Forget Me Not palette as bronzer, blush, highlighter, and we're gonna do an eye look. I also wanted to quickly point out that these two shades up here, Brighter Days, which is a white shade, and A Moment, which is a pink shade, those can be used to set your under eye, especially the pink shade. A Moment could be used as a under eye brightening setting powder. So I think that's a really nice addition to the palette. And there is a black and a white, which again is just really versatile. So the first thing I wanna do is bronze up my face because like I said, I haven't done any bronzer. Now you really have multiple options. These 4 shades right here, and then even these 2 shades if you're a darker skin tone, can be used for bronzing. So for me, I am a neutral, a warm neutral. So I think this shade here together would be a nice bronzer shade for me. So I'm going to pick that up on a brush. I'm going to save the Blend Bunny face brush for blush, and then I'll show you all of the brushes. They are really nice. So I'm going to pick up that shade together and I'm going to just tap that on my skin. So that you can see is a little bit more gray toned, more cool toned. I am, like I said, more of a warm undertone. So I think I'm going to pick up Picture Perfect, which is this deeper brown, which has definitely a little bit more warm undertone, and let's buff that in. So that is definitely more my bronzer shade. So Picture Perfect is the shade that works well with my skin tone for bronzing. Now even that shade has a bit of a gray undertone, but it still blends beautifully in with my skin. So you can see it there on my forehead, and it does blend out and buff out really nicely. So I went ahead and bronzed my skin. Now I will say that really for me, I would have to stick with Picture Perfect and maybe pull in a little bit of Anticipation, these 2 shades here, to get the right bronzer shade. Like I said, it is a little bit gray leaning on me, and just probably because of my skin tone. So for me, it would require mixing a few shades together to get a good bronzer shade. Now for blush options in the palette, we don't have a whole lot. We really just have this one one pink shade called A Moment, and that's going to be most likely way too light for me. I am going to pick it up with the Blend Bunny brush. I did pick up the brush set. You receive 4 eye brushes, 1 face brush. You do get a blending brush, an angled brush, which I love those angled brushes, a liner brush, and then a flat shader brush, as well as 1 face brush that you could use for bronzer or blush. So picking up that shade A Moment, like I said, I think that's going to be too light for me. Oh yeah. That is definitely too light for me. Whew. Yeah, that's definitely way too light for me. Gives me very much of a white cast on my face. So I'm going to go ahead and just pull out a blush that I currently have. There's really no other shade in here for me that would serve as a blush. So for me, this is definitely more of a bronzer contour palette as well as an eyeshadow highlighter palette. There's really, again, not a blush shade in there that works with my skin tone. So I'm going to use my Kristaff blush from Benefit, and that's going to give me a little bit of color to my cheeks. I do want to use the Blend Bunny brush though. The brush, I will say, is really nice. It's nice and soft, but it also is dense enough to really just buff in the blush. I really like this brush. I can see myself using this face brush a lot. So I went ahead and added some blush. It looks absolutely beautiful. Again, love this brush. And then for highlight, we actually have 4 different shades, which are our shimmer shades in the palette. We have Cheers, Butterflies, Magical, and Memory. So this is a champagne shade. This one's a little bit more on the ivory side, gold, and then more of a white. I feel like I want to try out Butterflies, which is the pinky leaning shade. Now, these are meant to be used again on the face and the eye. So I don't anticipate these to be the typical Blend Bunny shimmer, even though when I swatch them, they're absolutely buttery soft and beautiful. Because they have to be versatile, I anticipate having to build it up a little bit for both the eye look and the highlight. But let's go ahead, pick that up on a highlighter brush and swipe it on the cheek. Ooh, okay. Okay, Blend Bunny, never mind. We don't really have to build up. Look how beautiful that is. That is stunning. And it is definitely sinking right into my skin, just as a highlighter should. So as a highlight, these are beautiful. I'm curious to see how they perform as a shimmer, because with the shimmer, you want a little bit more impact, a little bit more of that wet foiled look. That's what I always prefer in my shimmers, but as a highlight, absolutely beautiful. So there's the shade Butterflies as a highlight. I think this is beautiful. Actually, as I look in the mirror a little bit more, I actually really do like the look of the bronzer. I like the look of the highlighter. And like I said, there's no blush options in this palette for me. However, I feel like this pink shade, A Moment, would be beautiful to set my under eye. So I'm going to have to try that next time. But so far, so good. So one thing I was thinking about as I was deciding kind of what I wanted to do for my eye look is I was thinking this palette would be great for brows, to go ahead and use as a brow powder. So we're going to try that out. I have not done my brows, but let's do the eye look first, then we'll finish out with the brows. So as always, I'm going to set my eyes with my MAC Paint Pot in Painterly. This is my favorite eyeshadow primer. Now for eye looks, you have multiple options with this palette. You could do a smoky glam. You could do just a traditional smoky eye. You could do a more neutral palette, a more neutral look, a pink leaning look. So for me, what I think I want to do is do a brown smoky eye. So I'm going to pick up the shade Together with the fluffy brush in the Blend Bunny brush set. These brushes are really nice. And I'm going to pack that shade in my crease. Wow, that's very pigmented. That was one tap in to that shade, and then I'm going to blend that out. I will say that these brushes, like I said, they're really nice, and I love these. If you have hooded eyes, these are the perfect size to just get in and buff in your crease, especially again with hooded eyes. I have hooded eyes, and with hooded eyes, my tip for you is to pull whatever shade you use in your crease up above your crease a little bit, kind of like I did here. Not to your brow bone, but just above the crease. So when your eyes are open, you can still see it. So that was one tap in, blended out beautifully. And again, this is the shade Together. So this is the shade I originally was going to use as bronzer. And you can see it definitely is too gray for me to use as a bronzer, but it's a beautiful transition shade. And then picking up the shade Here and Now with that same fluffy brush, I just wiped that off. I'm going to focus that just on the crease, not above the crease, just in the crease to add a little bit of depth. Again, I'm going for a more kind of dramatic smoky eye. This shade is really, really pretty too. These definitely are leaning on the gray side. I wish that they leaned a little bit more on the bronzed side so that they'd be a little more versatile for a bronzer or contouring shade. Like I said, I couldn't use either of these because they're definitely too gray leaning, although they are stunning, of course, as an eyeshadow. So again, for me, it's this third row down is really where I need to go for that bronzer. This angle style brush is one of my favorites to deepen up and pack color in that outer corner. So I'm really happy this is included in the set. And I have any of these three shades right here that I can use to deepen up my look. I think I'm going to use the shade Unforgettable, which is the deepest, darkest brown shade. And I'm going to pack that in the corner. Oh, I just love these angled brushes. You get the perfect placement in that outer V with these angled brushes. This one is so nice. Blend Bunny, sell these separately. I would buy several because I can see this being my go-to brush. It literally just is perfect for placement. That shade is so beautiful. Oh, it's like a chocolate brown, but it has, again, kind of a gray base with like a hint of red. I don't know how to explain it, but it is a beautiful shade. Back in with that fluffy brush in the set, no added shadow. I'm just going to quickly just blend. As always, using my NYX glitter primer, I'm going to prime my lids for shimmer. I like to show shimmer applications in two ways, one with my finger, one with the brush. So we are going to use that flat brush. This is also great for eyeshadow primer, NYX glitter glue, or just packing on shimmer. So we're going to use that. But first I want to use my finger to see how these apply with the finger. And again, we have all four shades along the bottom here. So I think the first shade I want to pick up is the shade Magical, which is the gold leaning shade. Isn't that so pretty? And I'm going to tap that on the outer portion of my lid. Oh yeah, that is so beautiful. Wow, that would also be a beautiful, beautiful highlight, especially on a deeper skin tone. That is so pretty. That is actually more beautiful on the lid than I expected. I wasn't sure how these shimmers were going to work both as highlights and on the eyes, and they're beautiful. Absolutely beautiful either way. Now using the flat brush in the set, I'm going to pick up the shade Cheers, which is still a little bit gold leaning, but more on the champagne side. And I'm going to use that and tap that on the inner portion of my lid. That is really beautiful too. I will say that I feel like these apply a little bit better with the finger. I am able to pick it up on a brush, and it's really easy to blend with the brush, but I feel like it's a bit easier to pick these up with your finger. But I mean, either method will work. Look how pretty that is. That's really beautiful. One thing you can do as well is spray your brush with some makeup mist or setting spray too when you go to pick up the shimmer, and that often will help you pick up a little bit more, get it a little bit more opaque. Look at how pretty that is. That is so beautiful. Those shimmers on the eyes, gorgeous. I'm going to quickly pick up the shade Remember and just use that to blend everything out. For the lower lash line, I'm going to use the flat brush that we just used for the shimmers. I did go ahead and clean that off. I'm going to use that to buff color on the lower lash line. And I think what I want to do is pick up Picture Perfect, which was that shade that worked really good as a bronzer for me. And I'm just going to buff that on my lower lash line. It's a warm kind of chocolate brown. That's really pretty on the lower lash line. That same flat brush, just wiping it off in between, I'm going to pick up that gold shade Magical, and again, just buff a little of that on the lower lash line as well. And last but not least, we're picking up the shade Memories, which is the silver foiled shade in the palette, and I'm going to use that as my inner corner highlight. Oh yeah, that is the perfect inner corner highlight. That is so pretty. Again, would be a beautiful highlight shade as well. There is the completed kind of smoky glam eye look. Let me go ahead and put on liner and mascara, and I'll be back and we will try using the Forget Me Not palette in the brows. So I have liner and mascara on, and let's test out the Forget Me Not palette for the brows. Now I have pretty thick brows, so I don't necessarily need to draw in hair-like strokes, but you can see I do have some sparse areas that I like to fill in. I'm not a big brow powder person. I'm definitely a brow pen and brow gel, but you know what? Let's try it out. I'm going to use the angled brush that's actually meant for liner. I'm a liquid liner girl. I do like a good smoky liner sometimes, and these brushes work great just to tap on liner using shadow. So for my brows, I think the best shade for me in the Plan, which is kind of this blackish looking shade. So I'm going to pick that up on the liner brush and fill in my brows. Ooh, yeah, that's working nicely. Okay, that is the perfect shade. Okay, this works fabulous as a brow powder. That's exciting because if you are traveling, you can even leave brow product at home. If you are someone like me who likes to fill your brows in, you don't need to bring a brow pencil. You can use the Forget Me Not palette. And the angled brush works beautifully for this. That is really, really exciting. That worked so perfectly. Oh my goodness, I love this. I can actually see myself reaching into this palette to do my brows regularly. That was effortless, and my brows look amazing, absolutely amazing. I do have, like I said, pretty thick, crazy brows, so I am going to go ahead and set them into place with some clear brow gel. I really like the Juvia's Place clear brow gel, the ABH brow wax. I'm just going to set them into place, pop on a lippy, and I'll be back to share my final thoughts on the Blend Bunny Forget Me Not palette. So I'm dressed for the gym. I'm actually going to go lift some weights and then play a couple hours of pickleball. I'm super excited, and I'm ready to share with you my final thoughts on the Blend Bunny Forget Me Not palette and brush set. First of all, I love the palette. I love that the pans in the palette are bigger so that you're able to get all types of brushes in there, face brushes, eye brushes, since it is meant to be a versatile face palette. Couple cons about the palette. Number one, I wish that there were more options for blush shades. I feel like they definitely could have popped in some deeper pinks or coral shades as well, maybe more leaning pink since they do have the one light pink. For me, I would still have to bring a blush with me. And if I was really wanting to only bring one palette traveling or to use only one palette, I don't have, for my skin tone, any blush shades available to me. As far as the bronzer shades go, I feel like there's a good mix of bronzer shades. Unfortunately, a few of them are pretty gray leaning on me. And again, this is just me from my personal experience, my skin tone. So I'm really having to gravitate towards these ones down here. However, there are bronzer shades, contour shades that work beautifully in this palette for me. For the eyes, these shades are fantastic. I definitely am excited to try these out as under eye setting powders. The shimmers in this palette for highlighter are incredibly beautiful, and they are stunning on the eyes. These are very, very versatile for highlight and on the eyes. But what really surprised me about this palette is how amazing it is for your brows. I feel like my brows have never looked better. And all I did is use one of the dark shadow shades and then some clear brow gel just to set my brows in place. I felt like it worked fantastic to fill in your brows. So I appreciate that. That means I don't have to bring a highlighter, a bronzer, a contour, or a brow product with me, or really even a setting powder, because again, you can even use this shade here for a little color for a setting powder. So really the only other makeup product I would have to pull out, utilize, bring is a blush for me. So that makes this palette fabulous for travel. Now, I'm going to be out of town a couple days next week, and then I have almost a week long trip in September. I'm bringing this with me. And again, I love that there's a mirror because it makes it completely travel friendly. I think this palette is beautiful. I think it's very well executed, very well done, and it is definitely a versatile eye and face palette. As far as the brushes go, these are incredible. I love the ferrule, the ombre pink to white ferrule. They're soft, they're dense enough to really get in there and pack in the color. I love, love, love the variety. I love that there's a face brush and then 4 eye brushes. I'm obsessed with this angled brush. Again, Blend Bunny sell these separately. I would buy probably 10 of these. This makes it so easy to add shadow to the outer corner. I'm actually going to wash this right now so that I can use it tomorrow. I really, really love the brush set. Definitely worth it. So overall, I think this collection is fantastic. I love it. I'm really happy with my purchase. Again, I will link it down below for you with the discount code. All the other makeup that I'm wearing today, my lippy that I have on, as well as my foundation, my setting powder, all of that will be down below for you. I did go ahead and set my face with the Urban Decay All Nighter. That is the setting spray that I've been using and I love it. It'll definitely keep my makeup on through a couple workouts today. And of course, I'll have my favorite beauty boxes. And don't forget to come follow me on TikTok for a little bit more beauty on a budget. Needless to say, I'm extremely happy with my purchase.